Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So, we were discussing Holy Mother's divine play, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi's divine play. And once Swami Ishananandji was asked, Ishananandji was a disciple of Holy Mother. We just, in our previous class, we discussed about the divinity of an incarnation. A Sahadharmini, who is the spiritual consort of an incarnation, also possesses divine qualities. But that divinity was so much hidden in Holy Mother that it was difficult. We discussed a few disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who had seen Sri Ramakrishna and the manifestation of divinity in his life, started to question Swami Shardananji and other people, as that we don't see that same kind of divinity in the Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, who led an unassuming life, very quiet from public gaze, not as uh, not a life expressive of spiritual ecstasy as Sri Ramakrishna did. He went into so many high spiritual states, and day and night he used to go into samadhi. These things were not observed in Holy Mother's life, and naturally people thought that perhaps she is not so much spiritually empowered as Sri Ramakrishna. So once somebody asked Swami Ishanananda, who was an attendant of Holy Mother for more than 10 years, almost 11 years he was an attendant. So somebody asked him, could you tell me what was the most striking characteristic that you witnessed in the Holy Mother? What is the difference between Holy Mother and our mothers, our sisters, aunts, and other women in our families? So this was the question asked of Ishananandji, who served Holy Mother for almost 11 years. So he must have observed her very closely and enjoyed the bliss of the divine company of Holy Mother for 11 long years. The Swami Ishanananda kept quiet for a while and then said, have you seen any man or woman who is devoid of desire? Have you ever seen a desireless man or a woman? Holy Mother was completely free from desire. So if we imagine that there is a human being, which is almost impossible to find, who has absolutely no desire, as every human being is subject to desire, which originates from avidya. As we say, avidya gives rise to raga, dvesha. We desire things that we like, we don't desire, or we hate things that we don't like. So, and then there is an ego. So all these things, as soon as the ego comes, then desires are a logical consequence of that ego. So everything comes from avidya or ignorance. So every human being who is subject to ignorance will also be subject to desire. So only God or a divine incarnation can be desireless, because they do not have a ego. The ego that we normally associate with ignorance, that is kacha ami, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say. Kacha ami means unripe ego, not a ripe ego. Ripe ego is that which liberates you. So since Holy Mother was divine herself, the Divine Mother herself, there would be no smaller ego, the puny ego with which our jivahood is determined. Our characteristics, our likes, our dislikes, our fears, everything is connected to our small ego, which convinces us that we are small, we are limited. So that limitlessness, which is associated with incarnation, is the only thing that can make you desireless. So Ishanananji very aptly said, when he was asked to summarize how he saw, how did he see? What was the most striking characteristics? He says the most striking characteristics he observed in Holy Mother was her absolute sense of desirelessness. So then in later on, Swami Sharadeshananji, who was a disciple and an attendant of Holy Mother. He was also a disciple, Gopesh Maharaj. He was known as Gopesh Maharaj, and his sannyasa name was Swami Sharadeshananda. So he was asked, Swamiji, you served Holy Mother for several years in Jairambati. Please tell me what impressed you most about her life. So this was another sevak of Holy Mother who served Holy Mother for several years, and he was also asked what impressed you most about her life. Then immediately he said her humility, answered the Swami. Mother was completely egoless. Now whether you call a person desireless or egoless, it is the same, because when ego comes, desire comes, or vice versa. When there is desire, we have to know it for certain it is because of our ego that we have these desires. We are not definitely born in this world with friends or enemies. When a child is born, he is not born with any friends or enemies. We make friends and enemies mainly through how we talk, how we behave, how we conduct ourselves in uh, society. So slowly, if some people do not like our behavior, they get irritated and then they become enemies. And some people like the way we talk, the way we conduct ourselves, they become our friends. So human relationships can be destroyed in a second. Friends can become enemies by heart-rending words. When we don't use our words or our speech wisely, then you can quickly make enemies. That's why a person who is not able to control his tongue and not able to control his speech makes a lot of enemies. Even if he tells the truth, sometimes the truth has to be told in such a way that it doesn't hurt the other person. So Swami Sat Swarupananda was once another disciple of Holy Mother who mentioned this. So he said the mother never used harsh words to hurt anybody in her life. She spoke in a gentle and a tactful way that would not cause any pain to others. That is also an art, how not to hurt others and use words very wisely so that it does not cause unnecessary pain to others. Maybe there are certain painful truths, but you don't have to tell it in such a way that they cause pain. For example, once she gave some money to someone who was shopping for her. So naturally, after shopping, whatever little change is there, that person is supposed to return it to the mother. He purchased everything, and Holy Mother knew that he has not returned the change. Maybe he forgot. But in any case, if you just bluntly ask, where is the change? Then a person may feel hurt. Oh, am I a thief? That people are asking me in such a way, I did this favor. So Holy Mother very quietly said to that person, my son, do you need any more money for your purchases? Have you spent a little more than... You see, what she wants to remind that person is that maybe he has not spent the entire money and the change he has perhaps forgotten. But she says, so nicely, so politely, she says, do you need any more money? Means, have you spent something out of your own pocket? I gave you some money, but you purchased certain things. and perhaps you have spent a little more. So do I need to give you some money? So immediately that person was embarrassed and he replied, Mother, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to return the change. And then he immediately returned the change. So there is a nice way of telling things, convincing people, correcting them, or even reminding them without hurting their feelings. So Prabhavananji once said that Holy Mother was an embodiment of purity. These are the different characteristics described by many of her disciples. Some of them like Prabhavananji were disciples of Swami Brahmananji, but all the same they had an opportunity to see Holy Mother. So he says her mind was so pure that her mind never went below the Vishuddha chakra, that is the throat center. We have different centers. We start meditating on the heart chakra, then throat, then go to the Ajna chakra, and then Sahasrara. So the chakra means it's a level of our subtleness. The more subtle we are, the higher the center of our consciousness. Chakras are nothing mysterious. They are different locations along the spine, where as the Kundalini rises, the Kundalini means the nervous energy. The nervous energy which gives rise to the feeling of ego, the feeling of I-ness, the ahankara, and then the raga, dvesha, and all those things. So depending on where our location, our center of consciousness is, our behavior will depend on that. So if it is below the heart center, where we are supposed to meditate, the Guru tells you that one has to repeat the mantra with the heart at the center, so that your consciousness does not go below that. Below that, you go to a grosser and grosser levels. So when we go to higher and higher levels, when we rise, our consciousness rises from the heart. Naturally, next is the throat and then the eyebrows. So her center of consciousness was either above the throat center, but it never went below the throat center. That is what Swami Prabhananji observed. That shows that how much of focus, how much of spiritual intensity she had. So regarding the difference between other women and Holy Mother, one of her disciples, Swami Vishuddhananji, who was also one of the presidents of our Ramakrishna order, said, I gave a name to Holy Mother in Bengali. This is a Bengali word. He used to describe our mother by a small Bengali phrase, which means Gandi Bhanga Ma. Gandi means the barriers. Bhanga means to break. Ma means mother. The barrier breaking mother. So he had that kind of he saw Holy Mother's. This was the characteristic that impressed Swami Vishuddhanji the most. That she broke all barriers. Mothers that we see around us, the biological mothers that we see around us, have barriers, have limitations. They can love their own children or maybe some relatives, that's all. Their affection is limited to their respective children. A mother loves her own children, but because they are her biological children, she loves them. But the affection of Holy Mother broke all barriers. Her affection was limitless and not without any barrier. That is why Gandhi Bhanga Ma. Bhanga means to break. She broke all barriers. She was the mother of the universe. She was the mother of the creatures. She was the mother of human beings. She was the mother of practically everybody. Mother of the evil, mother of the good. So she did not make any distinction as far as her motherhood was concerned. So we find, say, a person is ill, say Ram is ill. So naturally, Ram's biological mother will be upset. But why will Shyam's mother, say another person's mother, be? If Shyam is ill, say another person is ill, then Ram's mother, why will she suffer? So that is what happens in normal cases. Each mother knows or finds that intense attachment for the biological children. That the child has come, she has sheltered that child, or she has nourished that child in her womb. So the child is part of her own biological being. So that's why she is attached. The reason is predominantly biological, and that relationship is very difficult to give up. But Holy Mother, on the contrary, was the Divine Mother, the mother of all beings, the cosmic mother, if you like to use that word. So she saw all children, all men, all women, all birds, and even beasts, the cats, the dogs that were there. Everybody is emerging, as it were, from her cosmic body, the Prakriti. So when you identify, when the Divine Mother or the Holy Mother identified herself with the Prakriti herself, Shakti herself, then whom we can she, because everybody has come out of her own cosmic body. That's why she had infinite love and affection, compassion and forgiveness for each and all. She could not, she saw that they are just emanations. They are all creations of Prakriti, which is her own self. She had become one with the Prakriti, or she was Prakriti herself. So how can she hate her own creation? For her, it's not, there was no biological child, but everything that is a object of creation or has been created, all creations, everything, including the broom. Once somebody threw away the broom. He said, why don't you respect it? This was the broom with which you cleaned the whole house. It has given you so much service. And after the work is over, you just throw it in a corner. How selfish you are, and how rude you are to that object. Obviously, nobody will consider an inanimate object like a broom to be so auspicious or so holy. But she wanted that broom to be given the same respect as you give another animal or any human being. So there is these wonderful stories where which shows her affection, her compassion, and the limitless forgiveness she had as a characteristic of her life. So many instances are there when we speak of the divinity of the of Holy Mother. Many people have had visions. Many of her disciples, as Holy Mother, they had seen their Ishta in her. Some saw her as Kali, some saw her as Jagadhatri, Bagala, or some other goddess. All these goddesses, though because of the visions which people have, they, the artists or the painters, were able to paint these different goddesses. They may not be the exact replica of what is depicted in the paintings, but every deity has they have certain features which are common. The painting may differ, but the features like Ma Kali, the color of Ma Kali, her attire and everything is so nicely defined that when you have a vision, you know this is Kali, this is Jagadhatri, or some other goddess. So these different visions confirmed that these deities or these devis or these different aspects of the mother are true. And in their vision, they saw Holy Mother. When they saw Holy Mother, they saw their own goddess, their own Ishta in the Holy Mother. So some devotees even lost consciousness upon seeing a divine form. When they saw suddenly Holy Mother being transformed into a divine aspect, one of the aspects of Shakti, they could not believe their eyes. And then when they saw that, they were simply immersed in the wonderful consciousness of the deity. Because any deity or any form of the mother has to be made of pure consciousness. So that consciousness is so overwhelming that people sometimes soon or enter into, they lose their consciousness. It merges in that divine consciousness. So Sri Ramakrishna experienced all beings as the manifestations of the Divine Mother. In fact, Swami Shardanji once asked, Swami Sri Ramakrishna asked him, what kind of experiences do you want? So he said, let me experience every being as one of the aspects, as the manifestation of the Divine Mother. Let me see the Divine Mother in every human or every woman or every creation. So then Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, that is the last word in sadhana. So they knew that, most of the people knew that Sarada Devi was the Divine Mother. And when Sri Ramakrishna departed, he left her for nearly 34 years more after his passing away to demonstrate the motherhood of God to the world. He realized God in its different aspects. Sometimes he saw the different forms of God as Vishnu or as Shiva or as any other, and also as Shakti. So the different aspects, the Divine Mother uh, takes up different aspects and manifests herself in different aspects to different sadhakas. Different aspirants want to see her in a particular form which they have been meditating upon. A devotee of Kali would like to see Mother as Kali. So Sri Ramakrishna experienced all the different Shaktis. He had a vision of Kali and vision of so many other gods and goddesses on whom he meditated. So he left Holy Mother to demonstrate what motherhood of God is to the entire world. Why should God be always called the Father? As we say in most of the Semitic religions, God is always associated with the male gender. They say, our Father in heaven. We don't, Christianity doesn't say mother, though they believe in Virgin Mary and the Divine Mother, but the worship is centered around the Father in heaven. God is always has a male attribute, that is, he is considered to be a male. Whereas the motherhood of God is unique to our Indian civilization, Indian culture. Nowhere else this concept of Shakti has been demonstrated to such a wonderful level. And motherhood of God was one thing. Though Sri Ramakrishna worshipped God as the Divine Mother, he wanted that Divine Mother to be manifest in Sri Ma Sharda Devi. So he said, you have to do a lot more things and convince the world of the divine power that the Divine Mother has to liberate human beings. So Swami Sharadanand wrote a beautiful book which was entitled Bharate Shakti Puja in Bengali. Bharate Shakti Puja means Shakti Puja in India, mother worship in India. That was the name of the book. So in that book, in the preface, or just he dedicated that book to the Holy Mother, and he writes, because that was his desire to see the Divine Mother in all beings, and Sri Ramakrishna said that is the last word of sadhana. But it was because of Holy Mother who survived Sri Ramakrishna for more than 34 years. Swami Sharadanand could have that vision. So he says, introducing, when he wrote this book, Mother Worship in India, which is a wonderful book, Bharate Shakti Puja, that is a Bengali original, but it traces the history of mother worship. How mother worship began, had its roots in the Vedas. So from Vedic culture itself, in seed form, this mother worship was there. In many of the Vedic hymns, the Rig Vedic and the other hymns, we see this aspect of Divine Mother slowly developing, and finally in the Puranic age we had this concept of Shakti developed so much. Then the whole field of Tantras, where Shiva and Shakti, the male and the female principle, the female principle was given so much of importance, the feminine principle. So this divine motherhood was what Sri Ma Sharda Devi demonstrated. So Shardanand in his book, he writes in the preface, or maybe he's dedicating this book to the Divine Mother. He says, by whose gracious glance the author, that is Swami Shardanand himself, has been able to realize the revelation of divine motherhood in every woman. To her lotus feet, the work is dedicated in all humility and devotion. So he felt that it is because of the Holy Mother's grace and her empowerment which he gave to Swami Shardanji, that he could the Divine Mother was revealed in every woman whom he met. He could not see any woman as anything but the Divine Mother herself. So with all humility and devotion, he says, I dedicate this book to the Holy Mother, of course, obviously, by whose grace I had that realization of the Divine Motherhood in every woman. So it is true that we do not have the insight which Swami Sri Ramakrishna or even Shardananda had. We do not know, we just have to get an idea of what Divine Mother is by reading their words or believing in their experiences, Sardhananji and Sri Ramakrishna, or try to find out what they said about Holy Mother. That's one way. Even if we have not realized the Divine Mother in her, it is Sri Ramakrishna's utterances who could never tell an untruth. And of course, Shardananji, who served her. The very name Saradananda was given to him because of his deep devotion to the Divine Mother. So, but though we may not have the capacity to understand her, like Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Shardananji or Swami Vivekananda, but we have a deep desire. We have a deep desire within us. Who is this Holy Mother? How can she come into my life, and how can I surrender to her so that all my problems, all my sadhana, she gives me the same grace, or she showers upon me the same grace which she showered upon her other children, like Swami Shardananda. So we need the grace of the Holy Mother to really know her, even to know her in essence, as the Bhagavad Gita says. You have to know me, the Lord says, Krishna says, you have to know me in essence, what I really am. Then only you will be liberated. So we need her own grace, Holy Mother's grace, to understand what she really is. Our only hope is her assurance, which she gave once. She gave an assurance saying that those who are my children are already free. Even providence cannot do any harm to them. So she had taken the responsibility of all her children, or all who went to her as mother, just as mother, not as Divine Mother, my own mother. So many times people used to ask, are you our just like our own mother? Or he says, no, I am your own mother. Why should I be just some other mother or some Divine Mother which is so far off? No, you consider me to be your own. So providence cannot do. I mean, she felt that anybody who came to her, who had faith in her, who surrendered to her, she said that no harm can come that person's way. So even providence, I mean, even if destiny was supposed to give them some kind of pain, or they would have suffered from some harm, even the fate or providence which would have resulted in some kind of calamity can be avoided, cannot even do that. Providence also cannot do any harm to her children. That is what she said. If once I accept a person as my child, then there is no power in the world, no destiny, even destinies, uh, destiny is struck off, as it were. The whole destiny can be struck off if there is the grace of Divine Mother. She was the embodiment of Shakti, so the cosmic energy of God. So in this, our whole discussion should be centered around that. We have to visualize through all our different teachings, through all our different incidents of her wonderful life, even the trivial incidents, we will have to visualize when we finally finish studying this whole divine play of Srima Sharda Devi, the big biography. We will find that how divine energy manifested as Srima Sharda Devi and lived in this physical body for nearly 67 years or over 67 years. That was her age when she passed away. Sri Ramakrishna did not complete 50. Swamiji did not complete 40. So most of the uh, direct disciples and the other disciples uh, passed away very young, including Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was hardly 49 years and a few months, just as Swami Vivekananda was 39 years and a few months. So uh, for 67 years, she guided, she inspired, and demonstrated what true motherhood of God is. So now we will see how uh, when we complete this discussion, I mean, when we finish this entire life, starting from her childhood. So this is just the background that how we watch her right from her divine birth, which she had. From that, 67 years later, as Holy Mother was seen by a lot of people. Some had seen her even as a young girl. So many of these reminiscences, if some uh, were shared by these elderly people about her, otherwise, how could a biography be written? What she used to do. Many times she narrated her own childhood. So there were so many sources which were used in this wonderful biography. So we will have to see uh, human beings normally, as Jesus said, very often Jesus said, man does not live by bread alone. What he meant was gross existence or gross things, the worldly things that we have, they can help us to survive, but they are not enough. Man cannot live by bread alone. A human being is sustained by many other virtues, many other characteristics other than money, power, and uh, which has been condensed in the word bread. When Jesus said man, man cannot live by bread alone, what he meant was it is not just eating, drinking, and being merry and leading a worldly life that is uh, true life. If one really lives, he has to live at a subtler level and an increasingly subtler level, leading to the identification of oneself as the pure consciousness. So we begin with faith. We love our ideal. First, we should have faith. But as after we have faith, when we practice our sadhana, focus on certain individuals, slowly the emotional part of ourselves, is focused on the Ishta, and then we start loving. So faith and love, these are the two characteristics. It begins with faith but ends in love. And then finally, that hope, that wonderful hope that by mother's grace, as mother has promised, many times we'll see incidents where she says, don't worry, I am there. You don't fear. So that wonderful faith and hope is kept alive if we continue to love the Divine Mother or Srima Sharda Devi. So with that, with her compassion, with her wonderful heart, Holy Mother nourished humanity with these life-giving principles which we can list as faith, hope, and love, which is at the bottom of everything. So now we will come to, there's a beautiful Chandi verse from the Chandi which has been quoted in the beginning to this wonderful book, Srishma Sharda Devi and her divine play. Itham yada yada badha दानवोत्था भविष्यति तदा तदा अवतीर्याहम करिष्यामि अरिसंक्षयम. So 11th chapter of the Chandi verse number 54 and 55 says, whenever demonical powers, Danavotha Bhavishyati, Danavotha means the demonical powers, try to disrupt or destroy this world. The evil forces, the people who exploit nature, they are the like the demons. Demons are not, they are just human beings who have evil tendency. If a person has evil tendency, even if he is a human, he will be called as a demon. There are no such things as demons. Demons are nothing but a species of humans who are evil in their nature, who enjoy doing evil, who are themselves evil, and who enjoy doing evil. They are known as. So when such powers, when such people are produced by society and they try to disrupt or destroy the good people, then the Shakti incarnates herself, and then she comes and drives or destroys those enemies of divine beings. The divine or enemies of divine being. Divine beings are one who have used their consciousness, their willpower through positive channels to do good to humanity. So uh, the positive side of Shakti, or Shakti comes with so much of power that she can destroy the demonical powers, not the person himself. Just as we read in the Chandi, there is a lot of physical killing. So Swami Yatiswaranji once told Brahmananji, I like the Gita, but somehow the very description, of course in the Gita we have a philosophy, but the whole Mahabharata is very gruesome. There are so many murders and all. But in the Chandi, you will find one whole few chapters dedicated to war and killing of this demonical powers which we see around us. So she destroys. What is the role of Shakti? To destroy the enemies of those divine beings who use their demonical power to subdue the devas or the good people. So that's why this verse has been mentioned in the beginning. Now we come to the significance or the greatness of the birthplace of a great soul. In such places where a great soul or a prophet or a divine mother herself is born, that place becomes a place of pilgrimage. So also Ayodhya, the birthplace of Sri Ramachandra, Mathura, the birthplace of Sri Krishna. Then we have Bethlehem, where Jesus Christ was supposed to be born. Navadvip, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born. Kamarpukur, Jairambati. These are the wonderful places which become a place of pilgrimage because Divine Mother herself and an incarnation, they were born. Kairam, Kamarpukur and Jairambati are not very far from each other. They are also places of pilgrimage. Anybody who goes to the birthplace of Sri Ramakrishna definitely visits Jairambati, which is about 10 miles from Kamarpukur. So all these great prophets like Rama, Krishna, Jesus, Chaitanya, Sri Ramakrishna and Sharada Devi, they are forever marked on the world map. These different places, they become, people don't forget, they become eternally associated with the incarnation. The incarnation may not be there, though he always remains in a subtle form to bless his devotees. But still, the place where he was born is so significant that we have to mark these places as the, you may say, places that we should visit before we die. So that is the idea. So these great places, that's why places of pilgrimage are there, so that the holy association that we have when we visit these places enable us to spiritually progress. So Jairambati, or maybe in the 19th century, Kamarpukur and Jairambati were almost very, very insignificant. Though they were not very far from Kolkata, but all the states were not so prosperous. And not only that, it was practically unknown, most difficult to approach. There were no trains. We had to take a train from Calcutta or some other place, go to Tarkeshwar, then take a bullock cart and walk for a long distance. So though that place was not visited much as it is today, because it's a place of pilgrimage, the people of the outside world, for us it is a very natural thing. It's part of India, part of Bengal, but those who come from abroad, or those who are coming from other states, they find it fascinating. Let us see what's the mm, what's the significance of this place, and what are the divine dramas these incarnations played in their place of birth. Normally, you will find the Balya Leela, the childhood days, uh, are very, prominent when we discuss the importance of these places of pilgrimage. It's the childhood days of Krishna that were spent in Mathura. That's why Mathura, the very idea or very word Mathura will inspire people to know about the childhood life of Sri Krishna. There are other places associated with his uh, youth and other elderly age, like Dwaraka, where he came and settled. So these were different places, they were associated different times. But the place which is associated with the birth of an incarnation has some special significance than the places which he might have visited. Sri Ramakrishna might have visited Holy Mother also. We see from the records that she has visited so many places, more than perhaps Sri Ramakrishna himself. So apart from the places they visit, which are definitely places of pilgrimage, the birthplace where the divine play began, that is known as becomes very significant. So people from all over the world, especially people who are new to the Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition, whenever they go to India, they will definitely not miss these great tirthas. So Jairam Bhatti can be called as a Shakti Peeth. A place, Shakti Peeth means a place where cosmic energy, Divine Mother, took a human form. So that is why we have 52 Shakti Peethas all over India, and some are abroad. One is abroad, which has been recently destroyed, the Hinglaj Mata temple in Pakistan. Unfortunately, that was destroyed by some miscreants. Anyway, these places, they are known as Shakti Peeth. And they say you can, when we meditate in such places, which are just like Shakti Peeth. Now, this is called a Shakti Peeth because Shakti herself was born in this age, in Jairam Bhatti. So this small village, Jairam Bhatti, if you see the geographical account or geographical description of this, is a southeast part of one. There is a district known as Bakura in Bengal, which is 64 miles northwest of Calcutta. So you can imagine Bakura is 64 miles northwest, in the northwest direction, but this Kamarpukur is the southeastern part of Bakura district. Bakura district, the southeastern area, the area that part has this small wonderful town which is known as Jairam Bhatti, and 4 miles northwest of Kamarpukur, this place. So it's just 4 miles in the northwest direction. Jairam Bhatti is situated. So they could easily travel. I mean, though it is difficult, 4 miles is not a joke. In those days, there was no other transport. You could go by bullock cart, which was equally slow. So walking was the only option between Kamarpukur, Jairam Bhatti, and majority of the towns, people used to go walking. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna's father, he went on a pilgrimage to Rameshwaram, which is, if not more than 1,000 miles towards the south. But he goes. So he had a great desire to visit Rameshwaram, and then he goes by foot. So it was very easy for people to, they were used to traveling long distance. So 60 miles or So many 4 miles were nothing. People would walk it daily. So approximately in the 19th century, they say, according to some statistic, only 100 families lived here in mud huts. Obviously, that were the, and they were not, I think, the pakka houses or the houses made of concrete or stones. They were built much later. Most of them were made of the indigenous building technology, where they use bamboo and mud, and so many things are coated, and then the walls are made with some framework inside, and then they are made of mud. So that's why we call it mud huts with thatched roofs. Thatched roofs you can see all over uh, the world. There are many such primitive, and they are, though modern technology has come, if somebody wants to build a cottage, this thatched house is still in vogue. In many places, you will find that people like, instead of tiles, they want to, maybe it gives a cooling effect inside. We do not know what exactly, but definitely thatched houses have not gone away. They are still there. So here it's about only 100 families in those days. That is the record, as the record goes. Hardly 100 families lived. So you can imagine it was a small hamlet, not even a big village. And obviously there was no tap or water as Calcutta had. Of course, Holy Mother used the tap because she refers to it. So piped water was available only in Calcutta after she came to Dakshineshwar. But before that, it was practically unknown. So people who lived in mud houses, they were so poor, and there were hardly 100 families. So whatever little uh, income they got by cultivation or running some shops and other things, very, very a small village which caters to the needs of only 100 people, say 100 families. So obviously there were no other facilities, water being the main running water. I mean, not the water, there were a lot of ponds, people could go and fetch water, but they had to go and then they had to purify it. But there was no running water, which Holy Mother must have encountered when she went to London. So when she went to Calcutta, when she went to the city. So when you go from rural area to a city, you could get all the benefits, because UK was, I mean, England was ruling India. So all the technology that was developed in London and other major cities, which were getting piped water, perhaps they were, these pipelines were installed in Calcutta also in those days. So it was not uncommon to find people using taps, and water would be connected to their houses, so they didn't have to go. But in these rural places, there were no sanitary facilities. Even bathrooms, they had to go out to defecate in the open. That was so common in the villages. Even till recently, uh, regular bathrooms, hygienic bathrooms were not there. So imagine such a village with so many green, but of course it was full of greenery, so many plants, trees and fruit and flower trees, mango trees, lot of mango trees, and a quiet river was flowing through that. Beautiful lakes. Most of this Jairambati, Kamar, Pukur. Pukur means a lake or a pond. So there were ponds of different sizes which belonged to certain small villages, and they used to cultivate fish in that, catch fish and use it for, it was a multi-purpose. They had multi-purpose uses, these ponds. So these pukurs or ponds, full of lakes, small ponds or big ponds, or maybe lakes, were plenty. And Swami, the book, as the book describes, the whole blue sky below, very clear sky, green rice fields, and then bright sunshine all around. All these were very common things which you could observe, unless you were in the rainy season when it became cloudy. Otherwise, there is sunshine throughout the year. So uh, there was beautiful red dust road. There were no concrete tarred roads or concrete roads, obviously. They were all mud paths, red dust road, So it took a lot of time for bullock carts or maybe other animal vehicles or maybe even horses to pass through, uh, go from one village to another. So, so this is the rural Bengal, the idea that women and men lived together in this small hamlet, and every day, I mean, we could hear the sounds of Ramayana and Mahabharata, because there are Bengali versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata where grandmothers, most of them, even Swami Vivekananda's mother knew Mahabharata by heart. And the Ramayana, the Kritivasa's Ramayana, which is very famous. That is a Bengali version of Ramayana, which has been adapted to suit the local culture. So Ramayana and Mahabharata were practically poems, and they were memorized by these old women, grandmothers or even mothers, and they were transmitted to their children in that way. So that was a very common saying. Ramayana, Mahabharata was being expounded or just recited, and people used to, because it was in vernacular Bengali, so the difficult Sanskrit verses were so beautifully and lucidly translated that hearing this Ramayana and Mahabharata, the children grew up. So there were lamps in the walls. You can imagine a dark room where just a few lamps light the whole house. These oil lamps had to be lit till one went to sleep, because that was the only source of light. There were no bulbs or any electricity there. So one had to mm, read all the books, if they could not do it during the daytime, using these oil lamps. And the entire village, you will find at different places, there are quite a few temples. That is one wonderful feature you see in India. No matter how small the village is, there will be a few places of worship, a few temples. Maybe some are very small, some are very famous, like the Simhavahini, which has become so famous now, a temple of the Divine Mother. So all these different temples, they had a fixed time. At sunset, we could hear the ringing bells. So seeing scenes like this, even if you go today, though many things have become modern, but you still get an idea of the rustic simplicity and the wonderful greenery around, and the wonderful sound, the wonderful reverberation of the temple, the small temples where the bells are rung, gongs are, the sound of vesper bells and gongs and the singing, everything reverberates in the atmosphere, and a wonderful environment is created. So 162 years ago, nearly 162 years ago, in Jairambati, Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi was born. Then we come to the next. Of course, there was, apart from this greenery and the natural beauty, there were a lot of uh, farming lands, fertile agricultural land, because there was a river Amodar which was running through the village. So naturally, even today, if you go to Jairambati, so much of cultivation is there. Wherever you see, there's lots of cultivation of different crops, sometimes 2 3 crops. So the villagers there, as it is uh, mentioned in this biography, grew rice, wheat, both depending on the season, lentils, potatoes, beans, chili, sugarcane, cotton, among other crops. Though it was a small village, there was abundance of natural resources, like ever flowing water, a good fertile agricultural land. So a lot of people of Jairambati, many people of Jairambati took to this profession. And of course, there were other professions, but the Brahmins were the ones, and Srima Sharda Devi's parents were also from the Brahmin caste. So they were the ones who normally officiated as priests and performed different rituals like puja in the temple, or even other lesser pandits or lesser pujaris or lesser Brahmins. They would even perform the funeral rites and thread ceremony and naming of the child and all those things were done by these Brahmin priests. So Sri Ma Sharda Devi was born to such a pious Brahmin family. So it makes a huge difference. No doubt you inherit the biological characteristics, but being born in such a wonderful family with an innocent father, a guileless father and a guileless mother, simple and humble, but very, very uh, powerful. So most of these people, they grew so many varieties like sugar cane and all those things, and that was enough to support themselves. Maybe they would exchange certain rice and lentils and potatoes with other, either in using a system of barter, or maybe uh, using the currency which was there, the British currency which was being used. So, but one unique feature of Sri Ma Sharda Devi, and we'll conclude and see if there are some questions, was that she was not confined. She was, though she was small, she was very adventurous in spirit, and she was not confined to her own small hamlet known as Jairambate. She used to cross, sometimes go to the bank of the river which was further down, and which ran in a meadow north of the village. It was running north. So she went there, and she also considered till the last, till her last days, she believed that, not only believed, she considered it the Amodar river where she used to take bath even when she was a small child, to go there for washing and doing almost everything in that Amodar river. People used to go if they wanted some fresh water than that of a pond. In the pond it stagnates, so it has to be cleaned now and then. But whereas this Amodar river was a small river which ran north of the village, and it passed through a beautiful meadow. So she considered they considered this Amodar as holy as Ganges. And she used to take her younger brothers. She was the eldest. She used to take the younger brothers to bathe there when there was sufficient water. Of course, that river dried during summer and other seasons, but normally it was flowing. And whenever it was flowing, she used to uh, take her younger brothers for bath. There were no bathrooms, as we know. There were no toilets and all those things. You had to defecate in the open, and after that take a bath in the river. That is how, no bathrooms, no washing rooms and other things were there. So everything was done in the open. And but of course people had to go, if they had to take a bath in the river, they naturally had to go early in the morning, because then the men folk would come. So it was very difficult for young women, especially women, not men. So, but she was trained in such a way that she could even take care of her younger brothers, and take them and help the parents to uh, in looking after uh, the siblings. So we will close today, and let us see if there is some question. Yes. The first question is, you said that Holy Mother told truth in a very tactful way, but did Thakur not say truth in a very frank and direct way at times? Yes, Thakur was a different type of personality. He often spoke frankly, but the wonderful thing was that he was so genuine, so sincere, and he did not say with the intention of hurting others. Though he used harsh words, somehow they created a wonderful impact on the hearer. Those who had these faults, they would not feel hurt, because he was telling them frankly as a small child. So it's just a different nature mother had. She could not do it, but Thakur, of course, did it. So he was frank and direct. Both are necessary. In some cases, it is better to be frank and direct. And in some cases, one has to slowly tell it without hurting, because the mistake might be due to inadvertence. So it's always helps to point out certain mistakes in a positive way, as Holy Mother did. Now, sometimes, however nice with a purified mind spoken to, the others cannot realize and take the wrong end of the stick. How to overcome this klesha? Yes, that is true. Nobody wants to be blamed or to be on the wrong end of the stick. Nobody wants to be beaten or even punished, even if it is through words. But that is what a spiritual life is. One has to develop it. This is the ideal case. Holy Mother's life, when we study the different characteristics like humility, lack of ego, and so many other wonderful things we read, these are qualities which we have to imitate in our own life. So they are the inspirations. So it may not be difficult unless we have, as you said, unless we have a wonderfully purified mind, then these things become easy, because then you don't have to struggle with your own ego. Okay, so I'll take your leave now. I think we have covered a small portion of Holy Mother's life. We'll continue from this place, and then we'll see the geographical location first to get an idea of how the divine play was enacted, and then we'll continue the biography till we come to her last days. So it's a very long journey, and hopefully every Tuesday we'll be meeting and trying to cover as much as possible. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.